सर्वांना नमस्कार. माझा आवाज आपल्या सगळ्यांपर्यंत पोहोचत असावा असं मी अपेक्षा करतो. उच्च आणि तंत्र शिक्षण विभाग, महाराष्ट्र शासन यांच्या माध्यमातून आपण मागच्या महिन्यामध्ये सह्याद्री शिक्षण संवाद हा एक अभिनव अशा स्वरूपाचा उपक्रम हा सुरू केला आणि आपण अखंडितपणे म्हणजे दर शुक्रवारी संध्याकाळी 5 वाजता उच्च शिक्षणाच्या क्षेत्रामध्ये राष्ट्रीय तसंच जागतिक पातळीवरती काही महत्वपूर्ण जे बदल घडत आहेत, त्या सगळ्या बदलांची माहिती मराठीमध्ये आपल्या सगळ्या हायर एज्युकेशन मधल्या स्टेक होल्डर्सला मिळावी या दृष्टिकोनातून ह्या अतिशय महत्वपूर्ण कार्यक्रमाचं आयोजन केलं गेलेलं आहे. महाराष्ट्र शासनाकडनं उच्च आणि तंत्र शिक्षण विभागाकडनं पहिल्यांदाच अशा स्वरूपाचा एक उपक्रम हाती घेतला गेलेला आहे आणि त्याच्या अनुषंगाने आपण आजचं जे जवळपास 8वं आपलं हे जे पुष्प आहे, हे 8वं पुष्प आज त्याच्या संदर्भात मार्गदर्शन करण्यासाठी आपल्याकडे तज्ञ मार्गदर्शक हे देखील उपस्थित आहेत. काही दिवसांपूर्वीच युनिव्हर्सिटी ग्रँट्स कमिशन विद्यापीठ अनुदान आयोगाने टीचिंगच्या पोझिशनच्या रिक्रुटमेंट संदर्भात, निकषासंदर्भात, त्याचप्रमाणे कुलगुरू पदाच्या निकषासंदर्भात आणि निवडीच्या संदर्भामध्ये अतिशय महत्वपूर्ण अशा स्वरूपाच्या काही सुधारणा करण्याच्या दृष्टिकोनातून एक मसुदा जो आहे तो घोषित केला आणि त्या मसुद्यावरती सर्वत्र सगळ्यांकडनंच म्हणजे जे जे उच्च शिक्षणामधले स्टेक होल्डर्स आहेत सगळ्यांकडनं सूचना या आमंत्रित करण्यात आलेल्या आहेत आणि त्याची चर्चा ही वेगवेगळ्या पातळीवरती होताना दिसते. प्रसार माध्यमांमधनं देखील याची चर्चा मोठ्या प्रमाणावरती होताना दिसते आहे. त्यामुळे नेमक्या या जे बदल युनिव्हर्सिटी ग्रँट्स कमिशनकडनं विशेष करून टीचिंगच्या बाबतीत आणि कुलगुरूंच्या बाबतीमध्ये करण्यात आलेले आहेत, हे नेमके बदल आहेत तरी काय, त्याचे परिणाम कशा पद्धतीने होतील, आता या पूर्वीचे निकष काय होते, या सगळ्या गोष्टी समजावून घेणं हे अतिशय गरजेचं राहणार आहे. आणि त्या दृष्टिकोनातून कारण आपण असं बघतो की गेल्या साधारणतः 1 ते 2 महिन्यांपासून युजीसी कडनं सातत्याने वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारच्या शैक्षणिक सुधारणांच्या संदर्भामधल्या मार्गदर्शक सूचना या येत आहेत आणि पुढच्या काळातही अशा स्वरूपाच्या सूचना ह्या येत राहणार आहेत आणि त्यामुळे आपण या संदर्भात एक संपूर्ण राज्याचं देखील एक ओपिनियन आपण कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करणं हे तेवढंच महत्वाचं आहे. त्या दृष्टिकोनातनं आज आपण हा नेमका जो युजीसी कडनं घोषित करण्यात आलेला मसुदा आहे, या मसुद्यातले जे वैशिष्ट्य आहेत त्या वैशिष्ट्यांची चर्चा करण्यासाठी, त्याचप्रमाणे त्याचे कशा पद्धतीने एकूणच शिक्षण व्यवस्थेवरती परिणाम होतील याची चर्चा करण्यासाठी आपण आज प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर संजय ढोले सरांना आमंत्रित केलेलं आहे. प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर संजय ढोले सर हे सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे युनिव्हर्सिटीमध्ये वरिष्ठ प्राध्यापक आहेत. त्याचप्रमाणे ते फिजिक्सचे विभाग प्रमुख म्हणून देखील आहेत. त्याचप्रमाणे पुणे विद्यापीठाच्या IQAC चे संचालक म्हणून देखील सर काम पाहत असतात. सरांच्या मार्गदर्शनामध्येच NIRF रँकिंग जी पुणे युनिव्हर्सिटीची ड्रास्टिकली गेल्या काही वर्षांमध्ये इम्प्रूव्ह झालेली होती, त्यामागे संजय ढोले सरांचे प्रयत्न आणि योगदान हे अतिशय महत्वपूर्ण आहे. सातत्याने संशोधन करणं, विशेष करून आपल्या विषयाशिवाय इतर ज्या शैक्षणिक गोष्टी आहेत त्यामध्ये संशोधन करणं, मार्गदर्शन करणं, या बाबतीमध्ये संजय ढोले सर हे सातत्याने पुढाकार घेत असतात. आम्ही त्यांना या संदर्भामध्ये विनंती केली आणि ढोले सरांनी आज त्यांच्याकडे आयसरचा एक महत्वाचा वर्कशॉप होता, AISACचा तो वर्कशॉप देखील त्यांच्याच विभागामध्ये होता. त्यामुळे त्याचं आयोजन पण त्यांनी उत्तम पद्धतीने केलेलं आहे आणि आज ते आपल्या विनंतीला मान देऊन आपल्या ह्या सह्याद्री शिक्षण संवादच्या व्यासपीठावरती आलेले आहेत. आज अनेक विद्यापीठांचे कुलगुरू या ठिकाणी, मला शिवाजी विद्यापीठाचे सन्माननीय कुलगुरू शिर्के सर आज समोर दिसत आहेत. त्याचप्रमाणे इतरही अनेक विद्यापीठांचे कुलगुरू आज जॉईन झालेले आहेत, संपूर्ण राज्यांमधनं प्राचार्य. त्याचप्रमाणे ह्या ओव्हरऑल युजीसीचा ड्राफ्ट जाणून घेण्यासाठी उत्सुक असणारे काही पत्रकार देखील आज आपल्याला इथं जॉईन झालेले आहेत. जवळपास 250 एकूण सगळे पार्टिसिपंट्स आहेत जे संपूर्ण राज्यामधनं आज ढोले सरांचं याविषयीचं जे सादरीकरण आहे ते ऐकण्यासाठी या ठिकाणी आमंत्रित झालेले आहेत. मी आदरणीय शिर्के सरांना विनंती करतो की सर, आपण आपल्या प्रत्येक सह्याद्री शिक्षण संवादाच्या कार्यक्रमाचं अध्यक्षपद हे एका सन्माननीय व्यक्तीकडे देत असतो. त्यामुळे सर, मी आपल्याला विनंती करतो की आजचा अतिशय महत्वपूर्ण हा विषय आहे, त्याचं अध्यक्षपद कृपया आपण स्वीकारावं. आणि ज्या वेळेला ढोले सरांचं मार्गदर्शन या विषयावरती होईल त्यानंतर कृपया आपण देखील या विषयावरती थोडंसं मार्गदर्शन उपस्थितांना करावं. त्यामुळे मी आता फारसा वेळ न घेता संजय ढोले सरांना आता मी विनंती करतो की त्यांनी आपल्या जो युजीसीचं ड्राफ्ट रेग्युलेशन जो आलेला आहे त्याच्या संदर्भामध्ये आपलं जे मार्गदर्शन आहे किंवा आपले जे विचार आहेत ते कृपया आमच्या समोर मांडावे. संजय ढोले सर.
येस सर. सर मी एक शेअर करतो मग बोलीन थोडस.
शिवाजी युनिव्हर्सिटी ते मध्ये लावले होते बघा, शिवाजी विद्यापीठ.
Okay, I think I hope you can see the presentation.
Yes, sir.
And I hope that it is moving as well.
व्यवस्थितपणे येतोय. प्लीज गो अहेड सर.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. धन्यवाद सर. प्रथमतः आपले संचालक, हायर एज्युकेशनचे संचालक डॉक्टर शैलेश देवळानकर सर, त्यांच्यासोबत बसलेले मगर सर आणि या सह्याद्री संवाद या ऑनलाईन मालिकेचे 8वं पुष्प असं जसं मगाशी देवळानकर सर म्हणाले, तर त्या 8व्या पुष्पाचे अध्यक्ष सन्माननीय शिवाजी विद्यापीठाचे कुलगुरू शिर्के सर, त्यांच्या सोबत बसलेले आमचे मित्र प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर PS पाटील सर, रजिस्ट्रार विलास शिंदे सर आणि या संवादासाठी उपस्थित असणारे महाराष्ट्रातील सर्व स्टेक होल्डर्स, म्हणजे यात शिक्षक आले, टीचर्स, आपले रजिस्ट्रार्स आहेत, विद्यापीठाचे आणि महाविद्यालयांचे प्राचार्य आहेत आणि प्रकुलगुरू आणि कुलगुरू हेही उपस्थित झालेले आहेत. मी आता या प्रेझेंटेशन मध्ये दोघही मोड वापरणार आहे. I will make a presentation in English and as and when required definitely I will communicate in Marathi as well. तर मला असं वाटतं की हा एक महत्वाचा विषय मला 1-2-3 दिवसापूर्वी देवळानकर सरांनी फोन केला आणि म्हणाले की सर असं असं आहे तर तुम्ही याविषयी बोलाल का. तर त्याविषयी मी खरं तर तो ड्राफ्ट वाचलेला होता, उझरता वाचला होता, पण मी त्याला हो म्हणालो आणि मग मी गेले 2 दिवस त्याच्यावर एक सखोल अशी म्हणजे त्याच्यावर विचार केला आणि एक स्वतःच असे काही मतं आहेत का, मतं मांडायचीत का, असा एक मी विचार केला आणि तो मला फार सकारात्मक वाटला. म्हणून मी सरांना असं म्हणालो की आपण याविषयी निश्चितपणे या सगळे जे आपले भागधारक आहेत यांच्याशी आपण चर्चा करूया, चर्चा घडवून आणूया. त्या अनुषंगाने जर प्रश्न असतील तर निश्चित त्यांनी विचारावेत. पण आपली जी जुनी प्रणाली आणि आताची जी प्रणाली आहे यामध्ये निश्चित थोडा फरक आहे, तफावत आहे आणि म्हणजे शिक्षकांना पूरक असणारं असं हे जो आताचे जे काही नियम आहेत नेमणुकांचे, तर ते मला असं वाटतं की UGCने पारित केलेले आहे. तर मी थोडस एक काही स्लाइड्स प्रिपेअर केलेला आहे. इट इज ऑल्सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ the draft which has been issued by the UGC, and that's why the title of the presentation is New Proposed Guidelines by UGC for the appointment of teachers and vice chancellor in university and colleges. Appointment, I would say rather the teacher, because most of the stakeholder which comes from the teacher community, so I thought they should not be any confusion in their mind, and the principal who is going to recruit them also should not have this kind of a confusion or dilemma in their mind. So I thought let us try to understand the mechanism of the appointment of teacher, either direct or the promotion or the career advancement through career advancement scheme, And finally, I will talk about the Vice Chancellor appointment, where some of the reforms which has already been issued by the UGC and which has already been taken place. And I'm sure that the most of the sector from the society will really welcome this kind of a change in the guidelines given by the UGC. So the outline of this talk will be as follows. The salient features. What is the salient features of this particular draft which has been issued? And the general conditions, because they have certain conditions kept as it is, what we have earlier, but some of them have been modified. Those modified only have a picked up and then put it into the presentation. This is what the measure which is getting reformed in this particular draft. So general condition as far as the direct and the promotion appointments are the concern of the teachers, either right from the assistant professor, associate professor, professor, senior professor in case of promotion through the CAS, and then the vice chancellor, and there the modus operandi, and then of course the selection committee and the selection modalities. And the further minimum requirements for direct appointments of assistant professor, associate professor, and the professor, because there is a big difference between the direct appointment made by the recruiter, either it is assistant professor at the initial stage or the associate or the professor level, and there is a promotion under the CAS. It also has some different the modalities and the condition, which I already kept it. And of course, it is being obeyed for all the faculties like the science and technology, commerce and management, humanities, and the interdisciplinary as well. There are some discipline which has different modalities of appointment, like the sports, physical education, library. Those we are not going to discuss here, because most of the chunk which has come from these faculties, science and technology, and the humanities, and the commerce and management. So we'll much talk about this. And there is, of course, in the appointment of the librarian or the director of the physical education, is there a bit different, but there the eligibility criteria is different, so that instead of making this particular presentation cumbersome, so I thought let us have a focus on this particular, where the most of the participant is from this particular category. So then further we'll go for the minimum requirements under CAS for assistant professor, associate professor, and the professor. And then further we're going for the senior professor from level the 14 to 15. This is what we call it as. There is no any kind of a designation which has been issued, but definitely it is a level of 15. And there are also some eligibility have already been changed as compared to the earlier one. So I'm not going to compare those, and I will not mention about the earlier one. I will focus on this particular draft as it is, and because it is going to be accepted very soon. And then professor practice, which is being newly added in this particular guidelines, and that need to be upon the appointment need to be made by every university on the campus, so that the retired the faculty, those who have really contributed in their own subject, or eminent scientists or industriality, can be industrialist, or the entrepreneurs, or those who have devoted their whole life for the startups. So they can be, their appointment can be made in this through this kind of a professor of practice, and can be useful for overall growth of the university. And then rules for the vice chancellor selection. So this we will discuss the more in detail. So salient features of the 2025 regulation, the draft which has been issued by UGC. There are only, I have picked a few. There are many more, but they are common. But these are very the focus one and the essential one. Applicable to all HEIs in India, higher education institute, like because in the country there are more than 1100 universities and affiliated colleges more than 50,000, because those all comes under the HEIs, and most of the faculties in the different capacity like assistant professor, associate professor, and professor are working in these HEIs. So these kind of rules are being applied for this kind of higher education institutions in India. So the another one is focus on maintaining education standards and promoting transparency. Whatever the guidelines which has been issued, it is quite transparent, because the mechanism, it is not that complicated, which earlier it was there. And because earlier it was based on the API, Academic Performance Index, but definitely in this particular draft, what I saw is quite a bit transparency and making the appointments of all this, the assistant professor, associate professor, and the professor, and the revised qualification for appointments and promotions, and the encouragement for teaching and research in Indian languages. This is another the aspect of this particular the appointments and their draft, where this kind of the things which is being expected, and this is one of the eligibility criteria for the appointment of the assistant professor. Even in the initial stage, they're expecting something kind of a research or some kind of outreach program in the languages as well as the science and technology. So another one is emphasis on innovation, digital content creation, and indigenous knowledge and system. I will just give you more detail while discussing about the when we talk about the requirement of the minimum requirement of the appointment of assistant professor, associate professor, and the professor direct or the promotion way. So general condition, before going into the actual requirement of the minimum requirement of these appointments, then basically we try to understand the general conditions for the direct and the promotion, direct appointment or the appointment, the promotion of the from the AP, the associate professor and the professor. The first one is very important. The discipline subject chosen in the 4-year undergraduate program, that is National Credit Framework Level 6, or postgraduate program, that is National Credit Framework Level 6.5 or 7, is different from the chosen discipline subject in PhD. The discipline subject in which the candidate obtained PhD shall be considered eligible for appointment as an assistant professor, associate professor, or professor in that discipline or subject. If suppose this, the candidate who has done BSc in physics, did MSc in chemistry, but did PhD in some other subject, so his appointment will be based, he or she will be made, the appointment will be made on the basis of the degree, PhD degree, which has been awarded in that particular subject or the discipline. So this is what I would say the major change and the relevance in this particular draft which I saw. Otherwise, earlier, whatever the major subject that we have done in BSc or MSc or PhD, that only the appointment were made. For example, the candidate is from physics, he or she has to go through the BSc in physics, MSc in physics, or PhD in physics, then and then he or she is going to be appointed as the assistant professor in that particular, not other discipline. But here, if you change the discipline, then even at the time of the PhD, then whatever you have the discipline in the PhD awarded, then definitely that is going to be considered in the appointment of assistant professor. And then, of course, it is going further. So another one is if the discipline subject chosen in 4-year undergraduate program level or postgraduate program National Credit Framework Level 6.5 and different from the chosen discipline subject, the NET set, the discipline subject in which a candidate qualified NET set shall be considered eligible for appointment as a. So this is another very important. If you have done basic in other subject, but MSc you have done in other subject, but gone through the NET set in that particular subject, so that in that particular subject you are going to be appointed as an assistant professor. So these are the general condition which has been revised in this particular draft, and which I saw very positively, because there is a flexibility in this kind of a appointment, or the flexibility for the candidate to move from this discipline to this discipline. Though there is no across, it is not across the faculty, but this is within the discipline. If I have done the post graduation in some X subject and PhD in Y subject, then definitely my appointment will be made in the Y subject. This is what the flexibility which is being introduced in this kind of a draft of the UGC. Another is this is one of the eligibility and the requirement while making appointment of the assistant professor, associate professor, and the professor. This 3.8 is the condition, that is notable contributions to be considered by the selection committee for recruitment and promotion of university and college teachers. So what are those? Because there are 9 things which has already been introduced. And if you are able to fulfill these 4 out of 9, then definitely you will be eligible for that particular post. Either it is assistant professor, associate professor, or professor. So there are the 9 innovative teaching contribution. This everybody knows that if the ex-teacher is something using a different modality of teaching, innovative kind of thing, and if he or she has the 2 credit or 4 credit or 10 credit or whatever the credit, and if they have developed on their own model and introduced, and then definitely that is going to be considered as one of the criteria or one of the eligibility in the appointment of the assistant professor or the associate professor. There's a research and teaching lab development, because most of the faculty is involved. This is what due credit is given for the teachers. Of course, most of the teachers are developing their own the experiments, gadgets, or preparing all the notes and putting it in front of the students, but they were not given any kind of a weightage. But this weightage is being considered in this particular reframe or reforms of the guidelines of the recruitment of the teachers in the draft of the UGC. So another one, consultancy sponsored research funding as a PI. If you have written one project, and if it is related with the social aspect, and if you develop something, the device or the material which is being used for the industries, so the consultancy can be made, and it is through the university mechanism. So university will also get benefit, and you also get benefit, your student also get benefit. So this, if you bring on the paper as a PI, then definitely this due respect will be given to you. So 4th one is teaching contribution in Indian language. See, if I'm teaching physics or the chemistry or the mathematics, and if I have one, I'm not talking about the textbook, I'm talking about the reference book. If I convert them into, if I translate them into the Marathi and bring it to the academic level, then definitely that due respect or due credit will be given to the teacher as a eligibility. That is one of the eligibility criteria. And the one of the teaching, learning, and research in Indian knowledge system. As you know, IQAC is now the very important and the fundamental, I would say, the part of the NEP 2020 and the structure. This is one of the best vertical where the teacher has to taught the generic IQAS as well as subject specific IQAS. So definitely the teachers are contributing in this. So how they do contribute at the college level, at the state level, at the national level, the international, how they percolate through using the particular ICT medium, then that gives really credit to the teacher. And a student internship project supervision. This is also one of the very important. Between internship, OGT, the field project, or community engagement, these are the verticals of one of the verticals which is related to the major is very important. And of course, if the university is having the internship portal or the sale through which you can link with the industries, and if there are the industries are linked and the students are registered, then definitely the teachers are being given a responsibility as a mentor or the guide. And this again due respect is given in this particular draft for the teacher for their promotion and the recruitment. Digital content creation for MOOCs. This is everybody very well known about this. And community engagement service. This is also a, because whatever you do should be given back to the community, and how you do contribute your knowledge resource to the society, that is very important. That's also being considered in this particular. And the startups, because every university is having the center on the campus. That is what we call it as a innovation, incubation, and linkages. And definitely, I would rather say, because most of the industries are also linked with this kind of a IL center, and this IL center has many the cells. That is what we call it the innovation cells in the colleges. For example, the Pune University, Savitribai Pune University has this particular innovation cell, innovation center, has their cells, their theme, more than 400 colleges is having innovation cells established, which comes under this IIL. And they're all linked with the industries and made available to the student, not only from the campus, but also from the the colleges. This is what it is. So how do you contribute in this particular case is also very important. And that's why you can bring the student from the pre-incubation, incubation, then startup, then entrepreneurship, then technology transfer, and then industrial openings. So this is what the linked right from the academic to the industry. So these are the 9 things which has already been introduced in this particular. And this, I would say, which is correlated with the NEP 2020. And this is one of the best. If you contribute in 4 out of these 9, then definitely you will be given a due respect, a due credit while your promotion, right from assistant to associate or associate to professor. So this is the very. So another one, research publication should be in peer-reviewed journals. Earlier, UGC had, because as everybody knows that the UGC has there 2 to 3 groups. Group 1, which most of the journals is from humanities and commerce management, and group 2 is from science and technology. So they are, of course, from the Scopus, Web of Science, and Thomson Reuters. And according to the API calculation, the impact factor need to be considered the journal which is published in the Thomson Reuters base Web of Science. So this is what considered. But here, what I see, it is only peer reviewed. That has been removed, I suppose. So this either the peer reviewed journal, peer reviewed has a different mechanism. Peer reviewed doesn't mean that the X journal which has recently been published articles, and if you publish that articles and the journal is the life of the journal is only 12 months, and if it is written that peer review and the impact factor is so and so, and if you publish, and if it is directly published, doesn't have any kind of a meaning of the peer review. Peer review as your journal should have been published since last 5 years. It should have been published more than 100 or 200 articles, and there should have been a proper impact factor assigned by the Thomson Reuters. And then if you submit a paper, then there is a the theory-free blind, there is theory-free, and there is comments and answer, then finally deposition is accept. So this is what the correspondence that you are supposed to make. This is what the peer review is getting the expected. So peer review doesn't mean that your paper is submitted and accepted as it is. It is not like this. So another one is book chapter and the book. Either it must be published in recognized academic and professional publisher with reputation. Even in the books, local publisher is not the valid. This is what it is mentioned. But you should have the publication, either it is national or international or the state level. But you should have a recognized publisher, and which has a mark of the publishers as proper way, and the distribution across the country or across the world, which is to be mentioned on the book. This is what it is expected. So another one, the PhD degree shall be mandatory qualification for promotion of assistant professor, associate professor, and professor. So this is mandatory. PhD degree which has made earlier, even you are net set, then the the appointment was they were making a appointment without PhD, but in this draft, the PhD, they made a PhD mandatory qualification for the promotion to assistant professor. So the time candidate take require MPhil and PhD degree shall not be considered as a teaching research experience. Those who are doing PhD, during the PhD, that is that particular, whatever the time spent by the candidate while doing research and the PhD, that will not be considered as a teaching experience or any other research experience. No person shall be appointed to the post university and college teacher, librarian, or director of physical education and sports in any university or any other college or in any institution deemed to be university under Section 3 of the said Act if such person does not fulfill the requirement as to qualification for the appropriate post of the regulation. So this need to be understood very well, that unless and until if you do not fulfill all the condition, it will not be validated. And the candidate registered for PhD degree prior to the July 11, 2009. This has they kept as it is, because those who obtained PhD degree 2009 shall be governed by the provisions of then existing ordinance, bylaws, regulations of institutions. They're exempted from the NET, SLATE, and SET requirement for the recruitment and appointment of assistant professor, assistant library, assistant director of physical education and sports in the university. So this they have kept as it is. So direct recruitment, I will just go minimum qualification, experience and accomplishment across the faculty. I have already mentioned about that. I'm going to talk only about the faculties which is being recruited under the science and technology, commerce and management, and the humanities. I'm not going to talk about the physical education, not librarian, or not yoga, or not visual arts, or any other traditional Indian arts, because they have different mechanism of appointments and the eligibility. So minimum requirement for direct joining as assistant professor, academic level. This is what we call it as the academic level 2. This is direct requirement. A UG degree, National Credit Framework level 6, with at least 75 marks, 75% marks, or a PG degree, the NCRF level 6.5 with at least 55% marks, or an equivalent grade, and a PhD degree. This is what NCRF level 8. Or this is one the eligibility criteria, or the PG degree, National Credit Framework level 6.5 with at least 55% marks or an equivalent grade, and qualification in the National Eligibility Test, NET, conducted by the UGC, CSR, IGCAC, etc., or similar tests like SLATE and SET. So this is, or a PG degree, National Credit Framework level 7, example ME, MTech. This is what the example which is given by them, with at least 55% marks or an equivalent grade, and a relaxation for 5%, of course, given it to the reservation categories, SC, ST, OBC, EWS, and PWD. And notable contribution, which I have talked recently about the 9 the criterias, the 9 the contributions. So these notable contribution, teaching innovation, research publications, and digital content development, and need to be provided. So minimum requirement for here actually in this the assistant professor earlier actually the earlier the guidelines of the UGC, where we everybody knows about this because they have recruited most of the assistant professor, where the API was supposed to be academic performance index was playing very important role. But now throughout these guidelines, I was trying to locate whether there is any kind of indication about the API. But there is no any kind of the score through the API which is required for the appointment of assistant professor, associate professor, professor, either from the direct recruitment or the promotion. There is no any kind of a the thing which is mentioned. So I thought this may be discarded, but let's see some other guidelines comes up and where it is more elaborative things will be given. But right now, for direct appointment recruitment, these are the criteria for the appointment, direct appointment of the assistant professor. The associate professor, a UG degree with at least 75% marks, or a PG degree with at least 50% mark, and PhD degree. But as I told you at the beginning, because PhD made mandatory for everyone here, so it's not just a set net slate or so. Or a minimum of 8 years teaching and the research experience in a university college, or a minimum of 8 years experience in teaching or research in a position equivalent to that of an assistant professor, the associate professor in a research institution or any other Indian foreign institution of comparable standard. This is also one of the requirement or the criteria for the appointment of associate professor. The research experience shall be counted as per the clause 3.13, where we have seen either you have a combination of the publication, patent, books, and book chapter. Either number of books, either number of chapter, either numbers, or the mix, or any other combination, which is always inevitable in this particular clause. Say minimum of 8 research publication in peer-reviewed journals, book chapters, and granted patents, and a combination of research publication, book chapters, and granted patents totaling 8 can be considered here. So if you have any combination, you have 2 chapter, you have 3 publication, you have 1 patent. So this totaling can also be considered and make it 8, the publication for the requirement. This I'm talking about the college as well as and when it is required. Then I have mentioned specifically about the university requirement. Otherwise, this also being followed for the appointment of the assistant professor in the associate professor in the colleges as well. So the notable contribution in the last 4 areas out of the 9 given in the, this is what we had discussed earlier. At least you should have the contribution of 4 areas with given a proof. It's not that you have contributed and written like this, but you have to give a proper the robust proof for the existence of this particular notable contributions out of 4 out of 9. See, minimum requirement for direct joining as a professor. This is what we call as academic level 14. So here UG degree with at least 75% or equivalent grade, or PG degree with at least 55 marks, and a PhD degree. This is a minimum 10-year research, teaching, or research experience in university, college, or a minimum of 10 years experience in teaching and or research in a position equivalent to that assistant professor, associate professor in research institution or any other Indian or foreign institution comparable standards. So the research experience shall be counted as per the clause 3.30. So research contribution, a minimum 10 research paper in peer-reviewed journal, book chapter, any combination. This is what I said, because 10, either this is totaling can be done. It's not like that the patent should be considered separately or book chapter separately. The totaling can be considered here in this particular, it is suggested in this particular draft. As the sole supervisor, this is what the requirement for the direct recruitment of the professor. A sole supervisor, 1 doctoral candidate was awarded a PhD degree, or as a called co-supervisors, 2 doctoral candidate awarded PhD degree. And and the notable contribution in at least 4 areas out of the 9 given in the. So this is maintained. This is what I saw, some of the changes in the particular draft while recruiting, direct recruitment of the assistant, associate, and the professor. CAS promotion, this is these are again the minimum qualification, experience, and the accomplishment for the science and technology, commerce and management, humanities, and interdisciplinary, apart from some other subject. Then we have to follow these particular guidelines for the appointments of for the promotion, right from the different level, 6,000 to 7,000, 7,000 to 8,000, then associate, then professor, then senior professor. That is the process, that is a level 50. So there are some certain guidelines which has already been mentioned. So general conditions are also there. To avoid promotion under CAS, the applicant should be an employee of the HEI on the date of consideration by the selection committee. This Earlier it was also there, the same thing. So the promotion under the caste being a personal promotion to a teacher holding a substantive sanction post, the said post shall revert back to its original cadre. So that's why, suppose if you are appointed as an assistant professor and over the time that you have been promoted through the 6,000, 7,000 and then, but your position remained as it is as the assistant professor. But if you are appointed directly, direct appointment is made on the associate professor, and then you got the promotion for the professorship, but your original position made intact as it is. If a candidate fulfills the minimum eligibility criteria for promotion, he or she may submit an application to the university at any time during the year. And the inter-seniority of the direct recruitment shall be determined with a reference to the date of joining, and for the teacher promoted under the caste with reference to the date of promotion. So this is basically all the clear-cut, the guidelines and for the promotion under the caste which has already been given as far as the promotion and their upliftment is concerned. So granting of academic level 15 to professor of academic level 14 form. This is what granting of academic level 15 to professor at academic level 14 should be limited to 10% of professor position at academic level. This is for the university basically. And definitely I'm sure that if there are altogether in the university, if there are 30 professors, then 10%, the 3 professors will be made. The promotion will be given. Promotion will be given for the senior professor or level 15. So promotion assistant, the professor, I will just quickly go through some of the slides and then we will come to the end. The AGP 7,000, this is what 6,000 to 7,000, academic level 10 to 11. So an assistant professor who has completed the eligibility is 4 years of service with PhD, as far as the National Credit Framework 8 is concerned, or 5 years of service with MPhil PG degree of NCRF 7, or 6 years of service with PG degree. So these are all the combination for the promotion which has already been given. Should satisfy the following requirement: orientation course, 21 days, or 1 refresher research methodology course or faculty development program containing the at least 3 weeks. The 1 week at the 3 FDP can be considered for this. And the notable contribution, as I already explained, 4 years, the 4 areas, that is digital content, community service, and so on and so forth. So publication requirement for university teacher only. This is university and this is for the college, because I have made the presentation in such a way that it can be applicable for the college as well as whenever it is requirement of the university is mentioned. So publication for university teachers only. 1 research publication in peer-reviewed journal or equivalent contribution, book, patent during assessment period. If your assessment period is from certain duration, you have to show your publication, patent, or book chapter in that particular assessment period. That will be considered. It is not a retrospective. The publication will be considered. But this is totaling. So it's not required that you should have only publication. You can have this is what the major reform I would say in this particular draft, where the book can also be considered as a publication and the book chapter can also be considered. From 7,000 to 8,000, that is academic level 11 to 12 in the assistant professor. The eligibility is 5 years of service in academic level 11. So once you are appointed, then after 5 years, you are eligible for 7,000 to 8,000 requirement, and the 8,000 PhD degree is mandatory, and 1 refresher course or faculty development program online. It must, because this is mentioned, UGC, AICT, or any other government which organize this kind of a FDP is also inevitable, is also valid, the FDP for the consideration of the promotion. So notable contribution in 4 areas during the assessment period. Publication, this is only for the university teachers. 3 research publication or equivalent combination of books, patents, or this is combination, I would say, totaling. This is promotion associate professor, academic level 12 to 13. the assistant professor who has completed eligibility 3 years of service in academic level 12. And the requirement is PhD degree is mandatory. Completed refresher course these are the things which kept as it is. Either the equivalent training to be organized by the UGC, ICT or some other government organization, and notable contributions in 4 areas. Publication requirement for university teachers, this is only teachers university. 3 publication or equivalent combinations. Supervision of at least 1 doctoral candidate register, not awarded. See, when you want to go for the promotion for the associate professor from level 12 to 30 in A, then definitely you should be a guide, and at least one student should be registered under you as a PhD, as a sole register, or 2 doctoral candidates registered as a co-supervisor or co-guide. This is mandatory for the promotion of associate professor. And promotion of a professor academic level from 13 to 14, and associate professor who has completed easy eligibility is 3 years of service as a associate professor. Requirement PhD degree is mandatory in the relevant allied discipline, and multiple notable contribution in the research at least. And publication requirement, this is always for the the university teachers. The 3 publication or equivalent combination, patent books, chapters or books. The PhD supervision, at least 1 awarded sole as a co-guide. They should not be as a guide, there should not be a co-guide. Or 2 awarded as a co-guide doctoral candidate should be there for the promotion of professor from the level 13 to 14. And the minimum 10 publication overall total, this is for college teacher. The total after the PhD, whatever they have publications, it can be considered for their promotion from associate level to the professor. It is not mentioned that after the associate professor, they should have the publication of 10 for the promotion of professor in college. But they have mentioned that minimum 10 publication overall, but not during the PhD, but after the PhD. So promotion of professor academic level from 14 to 15. This is what I'm telling you. The senior professor, the professor who has 10 years of service in academic level 14 can be granted. This is at the university level, because senior professor, this level is not available for the college. It is not mentioned there even in the recent draft. The fulfillment of the following eligibility criteria: notable contribution at least 4. This is as it is. Contributions such as 10 research publication in peer-reviewed journals, or publication of 10 book chapter, or publication of 3 books, any other combination that you can take, but you should have a 10 publication. As sole supervisor, at least 5 doctoral candidates were awarded PhD degree, or as a co-supervisor, 10 doctoral candidates were awarded PhD degree. As a co-supervisor, as a sole supervisor, at least you should have a 5 postdoctoral, the student should be awarded under your guidance. Otherwise, 10 as a co-guide. So this is mandatory for the senior professor. This is the major change they have. Earlier, they only mentioned about the final paper and the 2 PhD student. Favorable review from 3 eminent subject experts out of the panel of name approved by the relevant statutory bodies, university, who are not below the rank of the professor. This is a process of practice. I'm not going to talk much about it, but this provision is there in the draft that you can make the appointment of the HEIs or the industrial person or any good academician, even if he or she retired, then it can be made appointed, and this should not be exceed more than the 10% of the sanctioned post in HEI. This is what about the professors. So if there are 30 professors on the campus, then definitely 3 can be appointed as a professor of practice. And this is, I'm sure, that very much useful as far as the overall growth of the university and the ranking of the student, and their contribution will be more beneficial for the university. So this is last 2 slides that I have, then we will conclude. So rules for vice chancellor selection, and this is what I would say the major changes which has been done. Earlier that everybody knows. What my understanding is, because even if the rules which has been formulated in this particular draft, but it means that at least the person who is from any other sector should have this kind of a qualification. He should be a graduate, postgraduate, and a PhD holder, and then maybe they may bifurcate to the industries, private sectors, public sector, public administration, or HEIs. And then accordingly, this knowledge, the criteria is being formulated. So what is the first one is a distinguished person possessing academic and institute leadership. Minimum 10 years experience as a, there are or. But professor in an HEIs, higher education institutions, where we mention about the universities and the affiliated colleges, where if he or she is appointed as a professor, he or she should have at least a 10-year experience in that particular area, whatever the discipline that he has. This is one, okay, in HEI. If it is not then, or at a senior level in reputed research or academic institute organization. What is this research or academic institute? Because there are many institutions where the many senior people who are working as an administrator, they also have very good academics. They are PhDs. They are contributing to the papers. They are contributing to the research writing schemes, but they are holding administrative position. If they're at the senior level and holding very good the position, definitely this kind of opportunity will be given to them to apply for the vice chancellorship in the university. And the research institute, I would say, research organization, like research institutes, where because their grade pay, the scientist may not be in the particular grade pay of the professorship, but even if he is associate professor, the grade pay, but he or she is appointed as the director of the organization, research organization, then if it is he or she is having 10-year experience, then definitely he will or she will be eligible for this. This is what the understanding that we have, and this is what the major reforms, and this we should really welcome this kind of a where you have a large scope of the wide scope of you are inviting the many people from other sectors as well for this particular position, which is the position, high repute position in the academics. So earlier we were invited only the people from the HEIs, but now in this particular the draft, it is mentioned about other than the HEI, there is also the person who is from the industry can also apply. So the third is the senior level industry. Industry means, it doesn't mean that suppose if I'm 12 pass and if I open up the industries and my turnover is 100 crores and he or she is eligible, I don't know this he or he will be available, the eligible for that. But definitely the person who is graduated, the person who is the postgraduated and the PhD, even if it is not PhD, holding good and having a good turnover, and maybe manager level, maybe CEO, maybe deputy deputy CEO, or some kind of a position he or she is holding in the organization, in the industry, definitely they have a chance to apply in this particular the academic. They can come to the academic and give their leadership being a vice chancellor. And another one, public administration. Most of the IAS officers, MPSC, but they eventually grow up and got the promotion and also contribute to the society and the administration very nicely, making the policies for the government, state government, or the central government, and they contribute a lot of things. So there, this kind of the people can also be made eligible for this kind of a vice chancellorship selection. So I hope that some more guidelines, the more stringent, I would say, or detailed guidelines may come later on after the approval of this particular draft, and then we'll have a more discussion about this. What are the criteria for the industrialists? What should be the criteria for the public administration, then public policy and the public sector undertakings? So selection procedure for search cum selection committee with 3 experts. Earlier the 4 were there, but now transparent and merit-based system term. this is one major because once you read the 65 was the term which was given to the Vice Chancellor. That was a term which was defined for 5 years and maximum up to 65 age of the 65 year. But here it has been extended to the 70 year. The outstanding academician scientist who is retired at the age of 60 but has notable contribution in the society in the discipline, but because of the retirement he is not able to apply for the Vice Chancellorship, but now he or she can be means eligible for the applying for the post of Vice Chancellor at the age of 61, age of 62, till the age of 65. So he or she can work up to 70. This is a major reform, I would say, and very much useful and very much acceptable. And this is one of the positive thing I would say as far as the revised draft of the guidelines for the appointments as well as the selection of the Vice Chancellor is concerned. So this is the last slide. The constitution of search selection committee. There also is small and a little bit, because there is a combination of the selection committees. Constitution is different. The search selection committee shall shortlist the candidates and interact with the shortlist candidate to prepare a panel, 3 or 5. Maybe depending on the search committee, they can suggest 3, minimum 3 or maximum 5 to the chancellor or the visitor of the state. And the visitor chancellor of the university shall appoint the vice chancellor out of the panel of names recommended by the search committee selection committee. Even the chancellor feel that whatever the candidate suggested by the search committee is not fulfilling the criteria or not happy with this, then definitely the chancellor has right to invite some other the candidate and make his appointment as a vice chancellor. So therefore, the vice chancellor shall hold office in term for a term of 5 years from the date on which he or she entered upon his or her office or until or she attained the age of 70 years. This is what I have mentioned earlier. Whichever is earlier and shall be eligible for reappointment for one more term by following the procedure prescribed by the appointment of vice chancellor. This is also the one major in the draft, that the reappointment can also be made. This provision is also being made in this particular draft, which is being issued by the UGC. I hope that I could cover most of the things, whatever there in the guidelines, the draft of the guidelines given by the UGC, right from either direct recruitment or the promotion of the teacher or the vice chancellor. But definitely the elaborative things must come, because as I mentioned, there is no mention about the API or their score. This is a minimum score should be required, but there is nothing. This has already been discarded. Whatever the things which we have, that we should welcome. And this reformation, I'm sure that as compared to the early one, there are 30 to 40 reformations are there, and that is quite acceptable and that is quite good. And I hope that the HIs in the country will benefit and have the more impact on this. And as you know that we have entered into the NEP, and if you align with the NEP, this particular draft is really one can have this kind of a the benefit of these guidelines. So, sir, once again, I thanks the Honorable Devlankar sir, Magar sir, for inviting and giving some this kind of thought on this particular issue. And as the guidelines, the detailing comes, then definitely we'll have more discussion on this. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद सर, धन्यवाद संजय ढोले सर. आपण अत्यंत सविस्तर अशा प्रकारचं आजचं आपलं सादरीकरण झालं. ह्या ड्राफ्ट गाईडलाईन्स मध्ये असिस्टंट प्रोफेसर, असोसिएट प्रोफेसर, प्रोफेसर आणि व्हाईस चान्सलर या संदर्भामध्ये काही महत्वपूर्ण बदल जे सुचवले आहेत, विशेष करून कुलगुरूंच्या पदाविषयीचे जे बदल आहेत, निकषांमध्ये जे बदल केलेले आहेत आणि त्याची व्याप्ती वाढून आता इंडस्ट्री, पब्लिक ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेशन यामधनं देखील जे कॅन्डिडेट्स असतील ते एलिजिबल ठरू शकतात. त्याचप्रमाणे सिलेक्शन पॅनल जे आहे त्याच्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मध्ये पण बदल हा घडून आणलेला आहे. आणि मला असं वाटतं की बदलत्या काळानुसार जी नवीन आव्हानं येत आहेत, राष्ट्रीय शिक्षण 2020च्या अंमलबजावणीच्या अनुषंगाने काही बदल करणं हे अत्यंत आवश्यक होते. त्या दृष्टिकोनातनं या ड्राफ्ट गाईडलाईन्स आलेल्या आहेत आणि आपण सविस्तरपणे या संदर्भामध्ये आपलं मार्गदर्शन जे आहे ते केलेलं आहे. मी शिवाजी विद्यापीठाचे आदरणीय कुलगुरू शिर्के सरांना विनंती करतो की त्यांनी अध्यक्षीय समारोपासंदर्भात काही मार्गदर्शन करावं. शिर्के सर, आपण ऐकत आहात का?
हो हो ऐकत आहोत, सगळे आम्ही ऐकत आहोत.
तर सर
धन्यवाद. पहिल्यांदा म्हणजे सह्याद्री व्याख्यानमालेअंतर्गत आज 8वं पुष्प गुंफण्याचा जो काय मान सन्मान मिळाला तो प्राध्यापक संजय ढोले यांना मिळाला आणि राज्याचे उच्च शिक्षण संचालक डॉक्टर देवळानकर यांच्या कल्पनेतून ही व्याख्यानमाला सुरू झालेली आहे. अतिशय चांगल्या पद्धतीनं ही व्याख्यानमाला सुरू आहे आणि याच्यामध्ये अतिशय महत्त्वाच्या विषयांना मला वाटतं आपण चर्चेसाठी घेतोय. आजची उपस्थिती सुद्धा जवळजवळ 200-250च्या पुढे आहे, 250 पर्यंत गेली असेल. आणि व्याख्यानाचा आजचा विषय जो आहे तो सुद्धा अतिशय महत्त्वाचा आहे. त्याचं कारण असं की साधारणतः 6 जानेवारीला UGC सेक्रेटरीनी हा पब्लिक डोमेनमध्ये UGCच्या वेबसाईटवर हा जो ड्राफ्ट पोस्ट केलेला आहे, अपलोड केलेला आहे आणि मला वाटते 5 फेब्रुवारीपर्यंत याला सूचना मागवलेल्या आहेत. आता या सूचना 5 फेब्रुवारीमध्ये त्याच्या पूर्वी देण्याकरता जे काही ग्राउंड वर्क करायचं होतं ते मला वाटतं आज ढोले सरांच्या व्याख्यानामुळे झालेलं आहे. आणि ढोले सरांनी जरी लायब्रियन किंवा फिजिकल एज्युकेशन किंवा व्हिज्युअल आर्ट्स हे त्यातले जरा दुसरे जे काही प्रांत आहेत ते जरी बाजूला ठेवले असले तर जवळजवळ 80 ते 90% पॉप्युलेशन कव्हर केले म्हणायला हरकत नाही. कारण बरेचसे शिक्षक लोक जे आहेत किंवा जागा आहेत ते या मुख्य विषयाच्या जागा आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी जे लागू आहे त्या सगळ्या गोष्टी कव्हर केलेल्या आहेत. आणि अतिशय क्रिटिकली सरांनी सांगितल्याप्रमाणे तुलना नाही केली परंतु त्या क्रिटिकली गोष्टी पाहिलेल्या आहेत. म्हणजे नवीन प्रोव्हिजन्स काय आलेल्या आहेत किंवा नवीन प्रोव्हिजन्सचा आणि राष्ट्रीय शैक्षणिक धोरणाचा रिलेव्हन्स जिथे जिथे आहे तो काय आहे या सगळ्या गोष्टींची सांगड घालायचा प्रयत्न सरांनी केलेला आहे. अतिशय चांगल्या पद्धतीनं मांडणी सरांची झालेली आहे आणि टू द पॉइंट झालेले आहे आणि कुठलेच पॉइंट त्यातनं राहिलेले नाहीत. म्हणजे ज्या जनरल कंडिशन ज्या होत्या त्या सुद्धा सुरुवातीला आपण ज्या सांगितल्या त्या अतिशय महत्त्वाच्या वाटल्या. आता मला या निमित्तानं असं आपल्या सगळ्यांचं एक काम वाढलेलं आहे असं मी म्हणतो. म्हणजे ते आपणहून स्वतःवर घ्यायला पाहिजे की सूचना मागितलेल्या आहेत त्या सूचना आपल्याकडून जायला पाहिजेत. आता राज्यस्तरीय अशा प्रकारची एक म्हणजे यंत्रणा एक ऑलरेडी काम करते आणि संचालक साहेबांनी तशा प्रकारच्या काही डायरेक्टिव्स पण दिलेल्या आहेत. राज्यस्तरीय जर सूचना गेल्या तर त्याला चांगलं वेट येईल तर त्या पद्धतीनं सूचना द्यायला सुद्धा हरकत नाही आहेत. त्यामुळं मला माहीत नाही की मी आता असं सांगणं योग्य आहे का नाही आहे परंतु इंडिव्हिज्युअल सूचना देण्याऐवजी जर आपल्याला राज्यस्तरीय सूचना एकत्र करून त्याच्यावर थोडंसं काम करून जर पाठवल्या तर त्याला वेट चांगलं येईल आणि मग त्याच्यातले काही साधक बाधक काही गोष्टी आहेत त्याच्यावर आपल्याला सजेशन तर देता येतील कमीत कमी. एक फक्त जाता एक 2 मला ज्या वाटल्या त्या गोष्टी मी बोलतो आपल्याला. डिसिप्लिनच्या बाबतीत ज्या वेळेला चर्चा सुरुवातीच्या आपल्या लेक्चरच्या काळामध्ये तुम्ही केली तर त्यावेळेला असं म्हटलं की नेट सेट किंवा PhD ज्या डिसिप्लिनमध्ये आहे त्या डिसिप्लिनमध्ये किंवा त्या सब्जेक्टमध्ये तेच तुम्हाला फायनल धरता येणार आणि मग तुमचा विषय पूर्वीचा वेगळा असला तरी सुद्धा काय हरकत नाही आहे. फक्त हायपोथेटिकल एक एक्झाम्पल म्हणून मला असं म्हणजे याच्यावर चर्चा करून काय करायचं हा विचार करावा म्हणून मी ते घेतो एक्झाम्पल की एक मॅथमॅटिक्समधला एखादा म्हणजे पोस्ट ग्रॅज्युएट स्टुडंट आहे आणि त्याने कम्प्युटर सायन्समध्ये PhD केलेली आहे. आता हल्ली कम्प्युटर सायन्सला ही PhD चालतं म्हणजे हे बॅकग्राऊंड चालतं. म्हणजे आमच्याकडे शिवाजी विद्यापीठामध्ये सुद्धा कम्प्युटर सायन्सला इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, स्टॅटिस्टिक्स, मॅथमॅटिक्स आणि कम्प्युटर सायन्स या सगळ्यांना आम्ही PhD कम्प्युटर सायन्सच्या PhDसाठी एलिजिबल धरत होतो. तर अशा पद्धतीचं ज्या वेळेला केलं त्यावेळेला ती गोष्ट पुढे जाईल आणि मग त्याला कम्प्युटर सायन्समध्येच घेतलं जाईल. परंतु जर तो PhD नसेल तर त्याला सेट नेट कम्प्युटर सायन्समध्ये करता येईल का हा एक प्रश्न आहे. म्हणजे ज्याची PhD नाही आहे परंतु सेट नेट कम्प्युटर सायन्स मधला असला तर चालतो, पण त्याचं बॅकग्राऊंड आहे ते मॅथमॅटिक्स आहे. मग आता एक्झिस्टिंग सेट नेटमध्ये ही प्रोव्हिजन आहे का, हा एक माझी शंका आहे. जर ती नसेल तर ती करून घ्यायला पाहिजे. म्हणजे ज्यावेळेला आपण डिसिप्लिन बदलतो तर डिसिप्लिन बदललं की PhDचा त्या इन्स्टिट्यूशनवर अवलंबून आहे, पण सेट नेटचा जो भाग आहे तो अपेक्स बॉडीने तो ठरवायला पाहिजे. त्यामुळे असे काही गोष्टी त्याच्यामध्ये आलेल्या आहेत. दुसरी एक गोष्ट मला असं जाणवलं, कारण हल्ली API कम्प्यूट करत असताना आपण सगळ्यांनीच बऱ्याच गोष्टी फेस केल्या असतील. युनिव्हर्सिटी लेवलला तर त्या सारख्याच फेस होतात, की पिअर रिव्ह्यूड जर्नल. आता पिअर रिव्ह्यूड जर्नलची डेफिनेशन आता काय करायची हा मोठा विषय आहे. आणि मग परत UGC केअर जर्नल आलं, ते याच्यामध्ये कुठं उल्लेख दिसत नाहीये. मग आता याचा अर्थ असा आपण समजून घ्यायचा का UGC केअर जर्नलला आता बाजूला ठेवायचं आणि फक्त पिअर रिव्ह्यूड जर्नल असंच घ्यायचं? ही एक मोठी शंका आहे. आणि पिअर रिव्ह्यूड जर्नलची डेफिनेशन इतकी वेग आहे की देर इज नो जर्नल विच इज नॉट पिअर रिव्ह्यूड जर्नल अशी म्हणायची पाळी आलेली आहे आज. त्यामुळं पुढे जो पब्लिकेशनचा जो भाग आहे, कुठं 8 पब्लिकेशन पाहिजे, 10 पब्लिकेशन पाहिजे किंवा त्याचं कॉम्बिनेशन पाहिजे, तिथं हा सगळा मोठा भाग तिथं, म्हणजे एका बाजूला आपण क्वालिटीचा आग्रह धरतो आणि दुसऱ्या बाजूला त्याच्या डेफिनेशन जर आपण वेग ठेवल्या तर ती गोष्ट सुद्धा अतिशय महत्वाची वाटते. तिसरी गोष्ट जी शासनाच्या GR मध्ये पण आलेली आहे आणि UGCच्या रेग्युलेशन पूर्वी आलेली आहे. आता ही तुलना नव्हे, परंतु एखादी जागा, एखादी असिस्टंट प्रोफेसरची पोस्ट भरायची असेल तर खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणामध्ये अर्ज येतात आणि ते खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात आलेले अर्ज शॉर्टलिस्ट करायचा एक प्रोव्हिजन जे आहे, अनेक्झर 2 मला वाटतंय किंवा 1 किंवा 2 असेल GR मध्ये, ती दिलेली आहे. UGCने दिलेली आहे आणि महाराष्ट्र शासनानं पण दिलेली आहे. तर तशा प्रकारच्या कुठल्या गोष्टी याच्यामध्ये दिसून येत नाही. तिथं क्वांटिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे. म्हणजे तुमचे पोस्ट ग्रॅज्युएट किंवा नेट सेट किंवा PhD किंवा MPhil किंवा रिसर्च पेपर सिलिंग आहे त्याला, परंतु ते क्वांटिफिकेशन केलेलं आहे आणि या क्वांटिफिकेशनवर स्कोर जो येणार आहे तो या स्कोरचा कट ऑफ पॉईंट काढून एका पोस्टला किती लोकांना इंटरव्ह्यूला बोलवायचं, अर्थात ते कॉलेजनं किंवा इन्स्टिट्यूशनने किंवा विद्यापीठाने ठरवायचं आहे, अशी प्रोव्हिजन त्याच्यामध्ये आहे. परंतु एकाच 10 असेल, एकाच 20 असेल, तर तशी कुठली प्रोव्हिजन ह्याच्यामध्ये दिसत नाही आहे. त्यामुळं ती खरं म्हणजे गोष्ट हवी आहे. कारण हल्ली असं झालेलं आहे की एका जागेसाठी 200, 300, 400 एवढे सुद्धा अर्ज येऊ शकतात, अशी परिस्थिती आज आहे. तर ते शॉर्ट लिस्टिंग करायची काही प्रोव्हिजन आहे का? किंवा टोटल आपण जे बोलला की ट्रान्सपरन्सी यायला पाहिजे, बरोबर आहे. आता फक्त ते क्रायटेरिया फुलफिल झाले की ट्रान्सपरन्सी येऊ शकेल का, एक शंका आहे. त्यामुळे त्याचं फर्दर क्वांटिफिकेशन होणं अतिशय आवश्यक आहे असं मला वाटतं. API जरी काढून टाकला असला, एंट्री लेवलचं मी बोलतोय, कारण एंट्री लेवलच्या गोष्टी खूप महत्वाच्या आहेत, तर त्यावेळेला आपल्याला या सगळ्या गोष्टीचा विचार करायला लागेल. त्यामुळं आपण सर्वांनी या सगळ्या गोष्टीवर साधक बाधक विचार करावा आणि जे आपण नोटेबल थिंग्स जे म्हणला, म्हणजे 4 आउट ऑफ 10, 4 आउट ऑफ 9 वगैरे, तर त्या 4 आउट ऑफ 9 मध्ये आता असं दिसतात की 4 अशा जाता होऊन जातील अशा दिसतात. म्हणजे मधल्या जर तुम्ही बघितल्या काही गोष्टी आहेत त्याचं इंटरप्रिटेशन कसं आपण करून घ्यायचं याच्यावर, म्हणजे ते इंटरप्रिटेशन खूप वेग होऊ शकतं. उदाहरणार्थ सांगायचं झालं तर टीचिंग कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन्स इन इंडियन लँग्वेजेस. आता इंडियन लँग्वेजेस मधलं टीचिंग कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन करत असताना त्या भाषेमध्ये आपण शिकवायचं असं गृहीत आहे का, ती भाषा विषय म्हणून शिकवायचं गृहीत आहे? पण इंडियन लँग्वेज म्हणजे मी मराठीत शिकवतो असं म्हटलं तर ते होऊन जातं. मग आता ते मराठीत शिकवतो असं मी म्हणलो की त्याला मला वाटतं काय फार मोठं प्रूफ लागायची काय आवश्यकता नाही. अशा ज्या गोष्टी आहेत त्यामधल्या त्या थोड्याशा वेग दिसतात. दुसरी एक गोष्ट अशी आहे की टीचिंग लर्निंग अँड रिसर्च इन इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम. परत इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम आणि त्याचं मॅपिंग कुठल्या गोष्टीने करायचं हा एक प्रश्न तिथं राहतो. त्याच बाबतीत स्टुडंट इंटर्नशिप ऑब्लिक प्रोजेक्ट सुपरविजन. आता NEP मध्ये ते आलेलंच आहे आणि ते प्रत्येक शिक्षकाला ते करावंच लागणार आहे. इंटर्नशिपला किंवा प्रोजेक्टला गाईड करावंच लागणार आहे. आणि कन्सल्टन्सी ऑब्लिक स्पॉन्सर्ड रिसर्च फंडिंग ॲज अ प्रिन्सिपल इन्व्हेस्टिगेटर ऑर को प्रिन्सिपल इन्व्हेस्टिगेटर. आता ऑब्लिक असल्यामुळं कन्सल्टन्सीला जर त्याचा व्हॉल्यूम कुठं क्वांटिफाय नाही झाला तर त्या कन्सल्टन्सीला आपण कसं डिफाईन करणार हा प्रश्न आहे. पण तिथं तो सुटून जाईल त्या वेगमुळं. त्यामुळं ज्या गोष्टी ज्या नोटेबल कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन्स मध्ये येतात त्या थोड्याशा परत स्पेसिफाय व्हायला पाहिजेत किंवा प्रॉपरली डिफाईन व्हायला पाहिजे. नाहीतर मग असेच जे करणारे लोक आहेत त्यांची अडचण बऱ्याच वेळेला होते. कारण बऱ्याच वेळा ते सिलेक्शन कमिटीकडेच येतात ते आणि मग प्रमोशन देत असताना किंवा या सगळ्या गोष्टी येतात. तर या सगळ्या गोष्टीवर मला वाटतं साधक बाधक विचार व्हायला पाहिजे. मी म्हणतोय म्हणून नव्हे, परंतु प्रत्येकाची मतभिन्नता याच्यावर असू शकते, मतमतांतर यामध्ये होऊ शकतं. पण जे काय आपलं मत असेल ते मला वाटते प्रॉपर स्टेजला जाणं आवश्यक आहे. अजून सुद्धा आपल्याला 15 ते 20 दिवस आहेत. तर जेवढं आपण याला चांगल्या पद्धतीने इनपुट देऊ त्या पद्धतीने आणि त्या चांगल्या पद्धतीने इनपुट दिल्यामुळे याच्यामध्ये चांगल्या सुधारणा होतील अशी एक अपेक्षा आहे. त्यामुळं आजचं ढवले सरांचं जे काही व्याख्यान आहे ते अतिशय महत्त्वाचं आहे असं मी मानतो. आणि एवढी स्टेट लेवलला एवढी चर्चा याच्यावर होणं अतिशय आवश्यक होतं. आणि देवळणकर सरांना मी परत एकदा धन्यवाद देतो. व्याख्यानमाला तर तुम्ही सुरू केली, पण त्यातले जे काही विषय जे घेतलेले आहेत ते अतिशय महत्त्वाचे आहेत आणि आजचा विषय तर महत्त्वाचा आहे असं मी मानतो. त्यामुळं ढवले सरांचं अभिनंदन करतो, देवळणकर सरांना पण धन्यवाद देतो, त्यांचंही अभिनंदन करतो. आणि जे सर्वजण आपण जॉईन व्हर्च्युअली झाले आहेत त्यांचंही अभिनंदन करतो, त्यांनाही धन्यवाद देतो की एक चांगल्या टॉपिकला आपण खूप महत्त्व दिलेलं आहे, त्यातून हे प्रतीत होतं. मला वाटतं या एवढ्या गोष्टी करून मी माझं प्रेसिडेन्शियल समअप करतो आणि अर्थातच देवळणकर सरांना धन्यवाद देतो की मला या थोडंसं अध्यक्षीय मनोगत व्यक्त करायची संधी आपण दिली. धन्यवाद. थँक्यू. नमस्कार.
धन्यवाद.
Yes.
धन्यवाद शिर्के सर, धन्यवाद तुमच्या ह्या अध्यक्ष मनोगताविषयी. आणि सरांनी अत्यंत राईटली पॉइंट आउट केलं की ज्या वेळेला अशा स्वरूपाच्या काही गाईडलाईन्स UGC कडनं येतात आणि त्यावरती अभिप्राय मागवले जातात, त्या संदर्भामध्ये फारसा प्रतिसाद हा दिला जात नाहीये. त्यामुळे पहिल्यांदा आपल्याकडनं राज्यस्तरावरती अशा स्वरूपाच्या एका व्यापक चर्चेचं आयोजन केलं गेलं असं आपण म्हणू. निदान यामुळे आपली थॉट प्रोसेस जी आहे ती ट्रिगर नक्कीच होईल. आणि 5 फेब्रुवारी पर्यंत हे जे सजेशन्स आपल्याला द्यायचे आहेत त्या दृष्टिकोनातनं प्रत्येक शैक्षणिक संस्थांकडनं, व्यक्तींकडनं एक पद्धतीचं तयारी ज्याला आपण म्हणू त्याची सुरुवात करण्याच्या दृष्टिकोनातून एक महत्वाचं पाऊल आज पडलंय अशा दृष्टिकोनात याकडे बघता येईल. मी आभार प्रदर्शनाच्या पूर्वी शेवटी फक्त एक छोटीशी अनाउन्समेंट अशी करतो आहे की आपल्याला कल्पना आहे की आपण जसा सह्याद्री शिक्षण संवाद हा उपक्रम सुरू केलेला आहे तशाच पद्धतीने आपण आणखीन एक उपक्रम सुरू केलाय जो उद्या 11 वाजता असतो. आणि आतापर्यंत 3 आपले सेशन झालेले आहे. हा राष्ट्रीय शिक्षण 2020 जे आपण या अकॅडमिक इयर पासून संपूर्ण राज्यामध्ये राबवतो आहोत. आणि त्या संदर्भामध्ये याचं राबवत असताना किंवा इम्प्लिमेंटेशन करत असताना काही प्रॅक्टिकल ज्या अडचणी आहेत त्या आपल्याला अनेक प्राध्यापकांना किंवा अनेक ठिकाणी जाणवत आहेत. तर त्या अनुषंगाने काही प्रश्न असतील तर आपण 10 तज्ञांची समिती तयार केली आणि ते तज्ञ उद्या 11 वाजता ऑनलाईन जॉईन होतात. ही लिंक आम्ही आपल्या सगळ्यांबरोबर शेअर केलेली आहे आणि याला प्रतिसाद अतिशय मोठा असतो. साधारणतः 500 पर्यंत संपूर्ण राज्यातनं याला आपले सगळे एज्युकेशन मधले, हायर एज्युकेशन मधले स्टेक होल्डर जॉईन करतात आणि ते प्रश्न विचारतात. उद्या 11 वाजता पुन्हा एकदा आपण NEP प्रश्न तुमचा आणि उत्तर आमचं अशा स्वरूपाचा जो उपक्रम आहे त्याचं पुढचं 4थं सेशन आहे. आणि त्यासाठी उद्या आपण 2 विषय ठरवलेले आहेत. एक आहे अकॅडमिक बँक ऑफ क्रेडिट, ओके, ABC, आणि दुसरा आहे क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्क. आपले जे GR या संदर्भामध्ये 3 निघालेले आहेत. या तिन्ही GRच्या संदर्भामधलं जे क्रेडिट फ्रेमवर्कची आपण चौकट ही दिलेली आहे त्या संदर्भामध्ये प्रामुख्याने प्रश्न काही आपल्याला असतील तर उद्या आपण जरूर ह्या कार्यक्रमामध्ये 11 वाजता आपण सगळेजण जॉईन व्हा आणि आपला जो प्रश्न आहे या संदर्भातला तो तज्ञांना आपण विचारू शकता. मला असं वाटतं की आजचं 8वं पुष्प आज संजय ढोले सरांनी अतिशय महत्वाची चर्चा करून आज या ठिकाणी ते आले. आम्ही त्यांना थोडं शॉर्ट नोटीसलाच हे सगळं सांगितलेलं होतं आणि त्यांनी अतिशय उत्तम अशा प्रकारचं प्रेझेंटेशन दिलं. हे प्रेझेंटेशन हे PPT आपल्या YouTube चॅनलला पण अवेलेबल आहे. आज आदरणीय शिर्के सर त्यांच्या पूर्ण टीमसह आज शिवाजी विद्यापीठातून जॉईन झाले. त्यांनी या कार्यक्रमाचं आजचं अध्यक्षपद स्वीकारलं. मी त्यांचे अतिशय मनपूर्वक आभार मानतो. ते आम्हाला सातत्याने वेगवेगळ्या विषयांवरती मार्गदर्शन करत असतात आणि लवकरच एक समिती शासनाच्या वतीने केली जाणार आहे की अशा स्वरूपाने ज्या वेळेला हायर अथॉरिटीज कडनं काही प्रस्ताव येतात, रेझोल्युशन्स येतात, गाईडलाईन येतात, फ्रेमवर्क येतात, त्यावर स्टेटचा एक कलेक्टिव्ह रिस्पॉन्स फॉर्म केला गेला पाहिजे. त्या संदर्भामध्ये काही तज्ञांची समिती आहे, त्यात आदरणीय शिर्के सर देखील त्याचा एक महत्वपूर्ण भाग आहेत. त्यामुळे मी त्यांचे आभार मानतो. आज या ठिकाणी आपल्या कृषी विद्यापीठांचे कुलगुरू, विद्यापीठातले पदाधिकारी, राज्यभरातनं प्राचार्य, शिक्षक वृंद, आमच्या शासकीय महाविद्यालयांचे प्राचार्य, डायरेक्टर्स, आमचे सगळे सहसंचालक आज या ठिकाणी जॉईन झाले. त्यांचे मी मनपूर्वक आभार मानतो. आमच्या बॅक ऑफिसमधनं मगर सर आहेत आणि आमची सगळी टीम आहे या ठिकाणी उपस्थित, त्यांचे आभार मानतो. पुढच्या शुक्रवारी परत एकदा 5 वाजता एक नवीन विषय घेऊन एक अशा स्वरूपाने एखादा जो बर्निंग टॉपिक आहे हायर एज्युकेशन मधला तो घेऊन आम्ही परत एकदा आपल्याशी भेटीसाठी येणार आहोत. मी पुन्हा एकदा उद्या सगळ्यांनी आपण आवर्जून 11 वाजता जॉईन करावं आणि NEPच्या संदर्भामध्ये आपले काही प्रश्न असतील तर ते निर्भीडपणे आपल्या तज्ज्ञांना विचारावेत. एवढं बोलून मी आजचं हे आपलं सह्याद्री शिक्षण संवादचं 8वं पुष्प जे आहे ते या ठिकाणी संपलं असं घोषित करतो. पुढच्या शुक्रवारी 9व्या पुष्पासह 9व्या तज्ज्ञासह आपण पुन्हा एकदा भेटणार आहोत. सगळ्यांचे पुन्हा एकदा अत्यंत मनपूर्वक आभार. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद सर. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद. थँक्यू सर.